All right, so this video is specifically going to focus on editing the bundle tab of our Excel sheet. You can go back and watch the other video on products and product groups if you need to, but for now, we're going to focus here on the bundles. And you'll see that I have, on this sheet I'm looking at, I've got 4 bundles already added in. I'll start with we've got a vinyl fence bundle up here at the top, and I'll kind of go through it column by column so we can look at the setup. Column A is category, right? So you'll define the category name the same way that you would on the product tab. Column B is going to be the bundle name, pretty self-explanatory. Column C and D are both going to be drop downs, right? So column C is visual type. How would you draw it on the canvas? And so you'll pick from length, area, or shape. The good rule of thumb to have in mind is that for any of your fence bundles, you'll set that to the length option. And then for your gates and corner and end posts, those will of course be the shape based, right? So we'll select shape. Now along with that, right, if you're doing a length or a linear bundle, the unit there is most likely going to be feet, like we see for these two. And then again, if it's a shape bundle, that unit that's associated will be each. Again, both of these columns you'll want to pick from those drop downs. E and F we shouldn't need to mess with in most cases, so I'll skip over those. Now, column G is where you're going to start seeing the list of all of the components that make up each bundle, right? And you'll notice, in the case of my clay fence here, right, I've got the top level bundle details here on row 2, and then I've gone down a row and then started that first component here on row 3. So you don't want to put anything here in G2, right, to use this example. You want to start on that row below. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when it comes to adding in those components. And like we talked about with the product groups, you want to make sure that you have an exact match for any component name, right? And that could be either, in the case of the section group, that's a product group that you're going to grab from right here, copy and paste, and then plug in. And then if it's something like like our Sackcrete bag that's an individual product, again, my recommendation is go find it here, copy and paste, and then that way you make sure that you have an exact match of that component name so that you don't return any errors. Now, column H, so this is the quantity rule, right? And you'll see that it looks a little bit different here than it does in the website. We've actually got a couple of examples here. We've got some simple rules here in our fence bundles, and then we've got, our multipliers for our gate and post. The multiplier is going to be pretty simple, right? You'll just input that value to that first decimal place like we see here with the 1.0, 2.0. You'll plug those quantities in that exact format. Now, for our simple rules, right, you'll see that we have a naming convention here, right? You're going to say, in this case, it's 8.0, comma, 1.0, comma, round up. You do want to copy this exact format, right? So notice you have each of those values to that first decimal place, no spaces in between those commas. You do have to get that formatting exactly right if you're going to edit it here on the sheet. But if you have some existing quantities like the ones we're looking at here, those will be a good template for how you want to format that. Column I, if you want to make one of these line items optional, right, you'll just put the Y, in that cell if you want to apply that to one of the components. Column J, you shouldn't need to mess with. And then again, column K, like we've talked about on the other tabs, the ID you don't need to change. If it's there, leave it. If you're creating something new, you'll just leave that as is and it'll get taken care of when you upload back to the site. And then same, principles as far as if you're adding a new item, you can go in and define the top level bundle properties and then the component names and any of their attending properties as well. Again, keeping in mind you just want to make sure that you put that bundle information on one row and then go down to that next row to start the component list here in column G.